and that is again on me. So today there will be two presenters. Dr. Tirth is presenting on the tibial footprint, and Dr. Anas will be presenting on fixation methods. Okay. Then after that, provided the time is there, Dr. Sanjay will present what he had presented last time. So he'll just show what is going to be the protocol. So what do we expect from the meetings, and then even I will present my presentation which was there. So provided the time, so we just get a hang of what we are supposed to do. Okay, so let's begin with the first talk by Tirth on tibial footprint and tibial tunnel trajectories. Tirth?
Yeah. So good evening, everyone.
What we'll do is we'll take a presentation, then we'll take the questions, then we take the second presentation, and then we'll
Yeah.
so once we finish the topic, then we go to the second topic. We'll see. We'll adjust according to the timings. Okay. So
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. I have been given the topic of ACL tibial footprint and tibial tunnel trajectory. Myself, Dr. Tirth Vyas, and I am a consultant orthopedic surgeon practicing at Vinoba Bhave Civil Hospital, Silvassa. So I would like to start my presentation with this very thought. Research is a formalized curiosity, and it is poking and prying with a purpose. So no research is good without any purpose. So we have seen an era of non-anatomical ACL reconstruction to anatomical ACL reconstruction to remnant preservation ACL reconstruction. But still, the literature says that there is 20 to 30% of failure rate. So still, there is a loopholes. There are something which is not understood very well. And in order to understand the basic thing, the Poland group, Dr. Siebold Renner, they have studied the anatomy of ACL once again. And this paper I selected because of this very purpose. This paper was published in Knees Surgery, Sports Traumatology and Arthroscopy Journal in 2014, and it is titled as the flat mid-substance of the anterior ACL reconstruction with tibial C-shaped insertion site. Now, what is the purpose of this study? So this was an anatomical cadaveric study, and they wanted to investigate the flat appearance of the mid-substance shape of the ACL and its tibial C-shaped insertion site. Now, let us understand what was going through their mind and what is the background of this study. So we all know that the norm has been the tibial insertion site is overinged with its anteromedial bundle is on the anteromedial aspect, which is very near to the medial tibial spine, and the posterolateral bundle is near to the lateral tibial spine on posterolateral aspect. The dimension which is known to us in most of the literature is 10 to 11 mm wide, 17 to 18 mm long, and average area of 136 plus or minus 33 mm square. Now there is a very interesting study by Arnowski. He says that ACL fans out beneath the transverse meniscal ligament, and it is a multifascicular structure. Now comes the actual basis of this study. So the recent exciting studies reported that the direct insertion of the ACL is long and flat, and mid-substance is also a similar flat structure. In concordance, Robert Spigelski in 2012, he reconfirmed the above finding and said that ACL will be ribbon-shaped and the tibial ACL is C-shaped. We have been hearing, and in the last meeting of the Journal Club, also Dr. Sanjay talked about direct and indirect fibers of ACL. So there is a very interesting paper by Iwahashi et al. He says that the direct type of ACL fibers, they have a characteristic zonal architecture. They allows the gradual dissipation of forces, and the fibers enter the bone almost at a right angle. And an indirect fibers are those, they have a ligament which is inserted into the bone by a collagen fiber without a transitional zone. They are weaker attachment and takes less of a load, and they represent the fanning out of the tissue. Basically, the direct fibers, they are the strong fiber and which we actually reconstruct. And the indirect fiber, they are the part of the fiber we neglect it. Now, coming to the materials and methods, so they have studied 20 human cadaveric knees, out of which 6 were fresh frozen and 14 were paraffin. After a standard medial arthrotomy, they removed the patella and ACL and PCL were exposed. The medial femoral condyle was removed to have better access to the ACL, and they preserved the coronal structure MC and MCL in order to get the stability. The action of the knee was avoided because they predicted or they proved that while flexing the knee, the oval cross-sectional area is appearing, and it is the ACL is turning out to be a double bundled structure, which is not the case. It is just an illusion. Instead, the knee was brought to the full extension, which straightened the ACL fibers. The exclusion criteria were grade 3 and grade 4 knees were excluded according to the outer bridge classification, and the damaged ACL cadaveric knees, they were not included. The study was performed according to the ethical standards of the World Medical Association Declaration of Helsinki. Now, coming to the important part of the study, the results. The mid substance of the ACL was flat and thin, regardless of the conservation method of the specimen, be it paraffin or fresh frozen. When it was cut to the long axis at the mid substance, they proved that it is a ribbon-like ligament and it has a mean width of 9.9 mm, thickness of 3.9 mm, and cross-sectional area of 38.7 mm square. And the tibial ACL insertion is C-shaped, forming along the medial tibial spine. The mean width of 12.6 and thickness of 3.3. There are no central inserting ACL fiber, which means this is a very important fact that they have proven. There is no PL tibial ACL insertion. The posterior ACL fiber, it is inserting along the posterior medial side, not the posterior lateral side. And hence the authors are recommending, if at all one wants to do the double bundle reconstruction, he should go for the posterior medial side and not posterior lateral side. Now, these are the images taken from the study. Now, this is before removing the other structures like synovium, bed, etc. Now, can you see my pointer? Hello?
Yeah, I can't see. Show the pointer. Just move around.
Yes, we can see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
can see your
So this is
Yeah,
the, yeah, thank you. This is the this is the medial meniscus, this is the lateral meniscus, and this is the ACL. So lateral meniscus, it appears that lateral meniscus is beneath the ACL anterior cruciate ligament. Similarly, in B image, it is a zoomed in image, and the C image is from the medial aspect. Now, this image shows that they have cut the ACL at the mid substance. It has been denuded. The ACL has been denuded, and they have studied it more closely. Now you will be able to see that the lateral meniscus anterior horn is going actually posterior to the C-shaped tibial insertion site. Now, the entire ACL has been cut at the base, and you can see the C-shaped ACL tibial insertion site. And in C image, you can see that it is giving a raindrop-like appearance with the lateral meniscus. This image I have picked up from Robert Smigelski paper, which very well shows that it is encircling the anterior horn of lateral meniscus. Now, this is again from the same paper. You can see very well, photography has been very good in Smigelski paper. This is the C-shaped tibial insertion, very well depicted. In B image, it is showing that it is coming very posterior. I mean, the lateral meniscus anterior horn is going posterior to the C-shaped insertion site. Now in C image, you can see very well that if you want to do an anatomical single bundle ACL reconstruction, you should go for anteromedial bundle and not the posterolateral, because while drilling on the posterolateral aspect, there are very fair chances that you may damage the anterior horn of lateral meniscus. Now, coming to the direct and indirect fiber. So they have described C-shaped insertion site as a direct fiber and the fanning of the indirect fibers, and which is giving an appearance of a foot kind of thing. There is a very interesting paper which I would like to quote, that is from Mochizuki. He said that if at all you are doing an ACL reconstruction, the anatomical ACL reconstruction, you should focus only on the direct fiber and not the indirect fiber. Now again, this image is showing that there are no separate anteromedial or posterolateral bundle. This is a closer image. And now, when you see that when there is an extension of the knee, it is a ribbon-like structure. But when there is a twisting or flexion of the knee, it gives that there is a bundle effect, but which is just an illusion. Now, Smigelski proved, he actually studied 111 cadavers, and he proved that 67% of the tibial ACL insertion site, it is C, 24% are A-shaped, and 9% of them are CC shape. You can see in this image that it is a CC shape. Now, the morphometric measurements that they have done, there were many, but I have cut shorted them. Width at the mid substance, the median is 10.3. Thickness at the mid substance, it is 3.9. The cross-sectional area is 9.1. The width of the tibial C-shaped insertion, it is 12.7. And thickness of tibial C-shaped insertion, it is 3.3. What was the limitation of the study? So, all the dissection was done by only Dr. Siebold Rayner. However, this dissection was observed and assisted by the co-author. But they have used the magnifying lenses, which is a positive thing, and morphometric measurements was done using caliper and digital photography. So the conclusion, the tibial ACL mid substance and the tibial C-shaped insertion, it is flat and it is resembling a ribbon. The center of the C, it is a strong uni attachment of the anterior root of the encircling the anterior root of the lateral meniscus. There are no, this is the most important part, there are no central or TL inserting ACL fiber. If at all one wants to do anatomical ACL reconstruction, we need a flat graft like quadriceps or patellar PBTB. A C-shaped tibial footprint reconstruction with an AM bone tunnel for single bundle and an additional PM bone tunnel for double bundle. Now, I would like to quote, any powerful idea is absolutely fascinating, but it is absolutely useless if we don't choose to use it. So what is the future scope? We need to recreate C-shaped tibial insertion footprint, we need to do more biomechanical studies in cadavers, and we need to devise an instrument which aid ACL reconstruction like C-shaped jig, and we need to study actually in patients. Now, this is the study done by Robert Mikulski, and this is a very small video which shows how they have managed to create a C-shaped tibial insertion. They have just cleaned the debris, and now the heart shape or the C-shaped jig is coming in. And then the rating has been done. So this very well proves we need a flatter graft. Yeah. So we can take a question now, or we should go for article second.
I think you finish your presentation, then we'll take the question.
Yeah, we can take combined question for both of your talks.
Yeah, how many articles?
Okay. So only two articles.
Okay, you
One was
finish this,
for
then we'll take
insertion
this.
site and second. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So now coming to my second article, which was regarding the tibial tunnel positioning using bony anatomical landmark in anatomical ACL reconstruction. This was from E.T. Simodaira. Now the background. We have seen the various, there are n number of papers which shows the biomechanical study and the clinical results for the effectiveness of the anatomical approach of ACL reconstruction. But the accuracy, reproducibility and adaptability, it is somewhere lacking. So there was no standard tibial positioning method which satisfies this condition. Hence, this study has been done. It is a technical note. Now, in this image, which very well depicts all the bony and anatomical, bony and the soft tissue landmark that they have taken. So this is the Parsons knob, this is the medial side, this is the lateral side. On anterior aspect, which is a red line, this is the Parsons knob, which is a bony structure. On medial side, it is a medial intercondylar, intercondylaris. On lateral side, it is anterior horn of the lateral meniscus, and on posterior side, it is intercondylar line. The anatomical consideration, it is just the repetition. Only the L-shaped ridge they have mentioned in the article, which is on the anteromedial side. Now they have done CT scan preoperatively. On in image A, they have considered. They have divided the ACL tibial insertion into rectangular structure, and then they have divided into 4 quadrant. Now in B image, which shows the double bundle ACL reconstruction, so anteromedial bundle, which is larger than the posteromedial bundle. Now from the anteromedial corner, you have to measure what is the diameter of your anteromedial graft, and accordingly, you have to measure the radius, put the T-hammer at the center of the circle, and drill the anteromedial tunnel. Similarly, for the posterolateral bundle, you have to draw a line, which is the posterior line, the intercondylar line. At the midpoint of this line, you have to drop another line, and the radius of the posterolateral bundle, there you have to put T-hammer and drill for the posterolateral. For the single bundle anatomical ACL reconstruction, you have to go from the corner to the center of the, like we have to measure the radius of the graft and then put the T-tamer at the center and then do it accordingly. This is the preferred method. As last time by Dr. Sanjay also, that we have to go from AM to AM, which is I think the right method, because if we go centrally, then there are chances that we damage the anterior or the lateral meniscus. But if at all one wants to go centrally, then they have devised a method. You have to draw diagonal, and at the midpoint of the diagonal, you have to put the T-tamer jig. Now, what is the limitation? So the Parsons law, which is sometimes extremely small and hard to identify. So that landmark is not very well identified, but the size, position, and distance from each landmark aids to establish the greatest diameter of the portal. Now, coming to the entry point on the anteromedial aspect of the tibial proximal tibia. So, this is the MCL. They have considered the anterior border of the MCL and the medial border of the tibial tubercle. So at the edge, you have to drill for the anteromedial bundle, and from the edge of anterior side of the MCL, you have to draw for the posterolateral bundle. So this is the description of the oblique skin incision starting from the point 3 cm below the knee joint, 3 cm medial to the tubercle, and extending 3 to 4 cm in the posteromedial direction is made using a tourniquet. After tendon harvesting, you have to drill both the tunnel, and accordingly we can pass the graft. Now, this is again the actual surgery that they have. The picture has been taken from the actual surgery which has been done. To note, they have removed all remnants from the tibial ACL insertion site. Now, the measurement has been made from the anteromedial corner, and accordingly, T-tamer jig has been placed and drilling has been done. In C image, they have gone for the double bundle reconstruction, and D image shows the CT scan after double bundle ACL reconstruction. What is the advantage? It has a short learning curve. There is no additional intraoperative radiographic imaging which is required. It is an easy procedure, and it is applicable to the multiple concepts of the anatomical ACL reconstruction. Limitation, as said, it cannot be implemented when landmarks are not preserved. There is a fracture of the articular surface, or there is a damage of anterior horn of lateral meniscus, or there is a revision ACL reconstruction. The Parsons law, it is at times extremely small and hard to identify, and target point needs to be slightly adjusted for anatomical variation of shape and size. But they have not, there is no more clarity on this point in the article. Now the conclusion. It's a good technique for the tibial tunnel placement using anatomical and bony landmark or without preservation of the remnant. Initially, one can choose to remove the remnant in order to visualize the landmarks better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. It was a nice job. I'll take the questions. There is one question for you from Dr. Harsh. He asks about the tibial side fixation in Dr. Smigilski's method of creating that C tunnel. And second part to the question, it's from my end. Do you have details on the rimmer? How was the rimmer like drilled in a C-shaped manner? It was a flat rimmer or what kind of rimmer? So first question, first point is, what was the fixation used, if available? Like if you have any knowledge about that, and how was the rimmer shape, or any photos you have of the rimmer or something like that?
Yeah. So I have actually picked up that video from the YouTube. So I have not actually studied the paper. So I don't know what fixation method they have used. But to answer your question, if you can see the video, they have kind of used the the tunnel impactor kind of thing at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this you can see
Okay.
to
Tunnel dilator kind of a thing.
tunnel dilator kind of thing. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fine. So, are there any other questions for Dr. Teeth's talk so that we can move on to other talk?
I have a question for Dr. T.
Yeah, Dr. Teeth.
Yes.
Yes. How many of us use the dilator of the same diameter? Like we have a graft of 8 mm from tibia. So with him or we drill for the 7 and we dilate for one with 8 mm dilator. I usually do that because of cancellous bone and it readily works for me. So how many of us will do this? Or you
No,
straightforwardly
I don't use it. I don't use that.
you drill the mm directly?
Yes.
Okay. Other people?
I don't use a dilator, but on a tibial side, if there is a big tunnel, I always go in 2 steps. I first do it with a 6 mm and then go on for the next, because many times what happens, the tibial bone is strong. So these implant trimmers are very blunt. You end up kind of burning the bone a lot. So it is better to drill with sharper 6 mm, which is hardly used ever trimmer, and that has two advantages. One, I do a remnant preservation time, so I don't actually see the footprint. I just, like in the talk also last time I said, I just go to medial to the medial tibial spine. So after the guide wire, if I'm not sure the guide wire is in position, so with a 6 mm trimmer, I can replace the guide wire with an artery and accordingly I can drill the final trimmer. So I have a chance to improve. On the tibial side, I always drill 2 steps of 8 and above. And on the femoral side, actually in hyperflexion, it's very difficult. So I personally directly use the final read after the initial 4.5 mm.
I will.
Move on to the next talk.
I think before moving out, I would like to, there's no question, but I would like to make a point for the sake of improvement. I think whenever we are doing any presentation, let's pick up everything from a paper and not from any other presentation. So we'll try to do it, keep it like that. That is one thing I would like to tell everybody. Okay, so I think Prathamesh sir has any point?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Okay, fine.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Nice presentation. Very good work.
Thank you, sir.
Keep it up. Okay.
So let's move to the second topic. Dr. Anas will be presenting on fixation methods.
Give a minute.
Yeah.
Hello. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Anas. Today I have given a topic of graft fixation option in ACL reconstruction. I'll share with my screen with 2 articles. This one is from JBJ's review article, tibial fixation technique for soft tissue grafts in anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction. It was done by Neil Patel, Jeffrey, and Dean Wong. Basically, coming to background, with the use of soft tissue graft, tibial graft fixation has been purported as the weakest link in the ACL reconstruction construct, following to the lower bone mineral density. Failure of tibial sided fixation has been implicated as the primary cause of early failure and late anterior-posterior tibiofemoral laxity, particularly for soft tissue graft. As such, advances in tibial soft tissue graft fixation technique have been made to improve mechanical fixation from time zero until graft incorporation. Tibial fixation techniques include aperture fixation, which is intra-tunnel fixation, suspensory fixation, and hybrid fixation. Now coming to biomechanical data, we are comparing in this article biomechanical data and clinical outcomes. So according to biomechanical data for aperture fixation, Ishibashi et al. Compared different sites of tibial graft fixation in proximal, saddle and distal using a robotic testing system following ACL reconstruction in porcine knees. In that study, more proximal fixation means closer to articular surface, produce most stable knee as measured by anteroposterior displacement with cyclic loading compared with more distal fixation. The investigator conclude that the more anatomic aperture fixation minimizes the functional length of the graft and maximizes stiffness. Another study, Selby et al. Found that tapered 35 interference screw had 38% higher ultimate load failure compared with 28 screw, and showed that 800 Newton of fixation strength can be achieved through the use of longer interference screw in tibial tunnel. So they are advocating that you should use longer interference screw for tibial tunnel for better fixation. Brand et al. Found no significant difference in load to failure, stiffness, or displacement in load to failure testing for construct for bioabsorbable and metallic screw. Santop et al. Compared three interference screw composed of different materials. Two were bioabsorbable screw. One was poly-L-D lactide and another was poly-L-D lactide with tricalcium phosphate and titanium screw. Fixation with PLDLA interference group resulted in significantly higher maximum load to failure than PLDLA TCP and titanium interference screw fixation. Now coming to second part, suspensory fixation. Mayer et al. Compared ACL reconstruction with adjustable left loop cortical button fixation with interference fixation in the tibia and found that graft with interference screw fixation showed decreased elongation and higher pull-out strength than button fixation. However, significantly higher ultimate failure loads were observed with button fixation compared with screw fixation. Now, hybrid fixation. Walsh et al. Showed that the combination of retrograde interference through future button fixation had low cyclical displacement and higher pull-out ultimate load, yield load, stiffness compared with either retrograde interference or future button isolation. In a systematic review, Belazas et al. Reviewed that 15 biomechanical studies, of which uh, majority demonstrated increased strength and stiffness and decreased anteroposterior laxity with the use of hybrid tibial fixation. Now coming to clinical outcome data, there are multiple clinical level 1 RCT which are showing this one is a clinical study comparing metal interference with bioabsorbable interference through for tibial fixation, and all studies showed no significant difference in knee laxity or any other parameter, Lisson scores or anything. This is another study which is comparing all inside ACL with traditional ACL reconstruction, and it also does not show any significant difference in clinical outcome. This is another study, clinical studies comparing hybrid tibial fixation with standard tibial fixation. Uh, it also is showing no difference in clinical outcome in all parameters. So in conclusion, although the biomechanical data have demonstrated clear pull-out strength resistant to cyclic loading with the use of certain tibial fixation device, available clinical data overall have demonstrated no significant difference in outcome among aperture, suspensory or hybrid method. So further work is necessary to determine which technique optimizes biologic maturation and incorporation of the graft within the tibial tunnel. An understanding of the potential advantage and disadvantage of each fixation technique is required for providing individualized treatment for ACL reconstruction. I'll conclude my this talk with this paper. Now we'll go for the second paper. The first one was regarding tibial fixation device. Now this is for femoral fixation devices. Comparison between different femoral fixation device for ACL reconstruction with doubled hamstring and graft. A biomechanical analysis. This is 2014 paper done by Milano and Pierre Damiano and aim of the study. The aim of this study was to compare the mechanical behavior of some devices used for femoral fixation of double hamstring tendon graft in anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction when included in a graft fixation complex. Methods. Now, ACL reconstruction was performed on 90 porcine knees, and the graft used was double lateral extensor of toes. And there are 9 different femoral fixation devices that were tested and classified according to their fixation mechanism. They are compression fixation, which is bio screw and bio RCI screw; expansion fixation, which is rigid fix; cortical suspension, which is a ligament anchor, endo-button, and swing bridge; cancellous suspension is links HT; cortico-cancellous suspension is transfix and biotransfix. Here, this image is showing these are the various fixation number. The first one which is showing is bio screw. Second one is bio RCI screw. Third one is rigid fix. Fourth one D is ligament anchor. Uh, Fifth one is endo button. Then swing bridge. And then after this is G is links HT. Then H is transfix and I biotransfix. Now, these all graft fixation complexes were subjected to a cyclic loading test, then to a load failure test, and graft elongation after 1000 load cycle, clear load, and stiffness were calculated for each devices. Results. So, among all the femoral fixation device, the results were shown like this. This is a table. Which is showing that okay, we will discuss the results later on in discussion. So now discussion ACL graft fixation mechanism can grossly be classified into according to amount, application, and distribution force that resists the graft pull out. Now we recognize 3 different fixation mechanisms for femoral fixation of double free tendon graft: compression, expansion, and suspension fixation. Now suspension fixation is again classified into cortical, corticocancellous, and cancellous suspension. Now compression fixation. Compression fixation is achieved with interference screws. Compressive loads are oriented transversely to the longitudinal axis of the graft and are shared along the 3 interfaces: bone screw, screw tendon, and tendon bone. Expansion fixation. Expansion fixation is rigid fix, consists of one or more cross pins that pass through the graft and the femoral tunnel, which produce bulging effect of the graft. This fixation is based on the initial press fit of the graft into the bone tunnel. It increases volume of the graft and causes pressure effect on the tunnel. Suspension fixation. Suspension fixation, cortical suspension fixation device such as ligament anchor, endo button, and swing bridge consist of hardware placed over the anterior lateral cortex of the distal femur, which suspend the graft into the femoral tunnel. In this type of fixation, the resistance vectors are parallel and opposite to pull-out force and are focused on the cortical bone of the distal femur at the bone hardware interface. The cancellous suspension device such as links HT, the graft is suspended to a screw that is into the cancellous of the femoral metaphysis. In this fixation, resistance is due to transverse compressive forces of at the cancellous bone and hardware interface. Cortical cancellous suspension device such as transfix, biotransfix, bone mulch, and slingshot crosspin are transcondylar fixation systems that are based on the use of transverse suspension bar that is perpendicular to pull-out force. In this type of fixation, resistance is distributed along the contact surface between the hardware and the bone, and it depends on the bone density and length of the lever arms with respect to the point of application of pull-out forces. Now conclusions. Result of the present study shows a predictable trend in the mechanical behavior for most of the fixation mechanism studied. The cortical cancellous suspension fixation, which achieved with transcondylar devices, seem to offer best results in terms of graft elongation, fixation strength, and stiffness. Interference screw, both metallic and absorbable, showed the greatest elongation, the lowest failure load. Expansion fixation showed suitable structural properties, although mean elongation after cyclic displacement was greater than 2 mm. Now, cancellous suspension fixation was homogeneous with other suspension fixation mechanism, but they were significantly weaker. And mechanical behavior of cortical suspension fixation seemed to be strictly correlated with the area of the contact surface between hardware and cortical bone and the structural properties of the implant. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the questions from here. There is a question on tibial tunnel position, so I'll ask Dr. Gates later on. First, if are there any questions for Dr. Anas's talk? I have one question, Dr. Anas. Did you happen
Yes.
to go through any studies which compare? Basically, nowadays, almost everywhere the cortical fixation is the norm on the femoral side, at least. So many people are used to
Yes.
using fixed loop. Many people are using adjustable loop. So did you find any literature on that adjustable loop versus fixed loop? Any advantages,
Yes,
disadvantages?
there was one literature regarding adjustable loop and fixed loop, and the advantage was just mechanical advantage. I'll share the paper. There was means by using adjustable loop, we were able to without measuring the tunnel and everything, we can
Basically,
in
the
the loop.
outcome was the same. Basically, there were no
Outcome-
issues of
outcome was the same.
laxity
Outcome
later
was-
on. That many people claim that an adjustable loop slackens sort of grade 1, grade 2, 1 or 2 years later down the line. There was no such issues in that paper.
No, the clinical outcome was the same.
Okay. So later on, you can share that paper on the main group, on the AJC group, so everybody can go through that. Any other
Sure,
questions
sure.
for Dr. Anas regarding fixations on tibial side and femur? And what is the consensus on the tibial side for you? Cortical or interference? Which do you prefer? Like as per your preference? On the tibial side, cortical fixation like suture disc or
On TBL side.
on the both side.
TBL side, hybrid fixation means aperture fixation is better
Okay.
with regard to elongation and everything. Otherwise, means according to the paper, aperture fixation is better.
Okay. And how many of us use dual fixation on the tibial side? Like anybody uses double fixation like screw also and later on post suture post thing like that?
Not always, but when the screw goes very easily and is very weak, or sometimes find any other complication like is very narrow and this type, I use the post or stapler.
Same is the case with me. If tibial tunnel is wide or I'm not having proper purchase of, then I drill a tunnel in the cortical tibia and pass through the sutures through it and then fix it.
Okay. Just like a tension band wiring kind of a drill hole and just
Yes.
between ulna.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions on fixations?
So I wanted to ask you whether
I
you have
think
any.
Parvesh sir is using regularly.
Yeah,
Hello.
somebody was asking you.
Dr. Steve, you were asking something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that I was a fellow, I have done fellowship under Parvesh sir, and he is using regularly both the fixation screw as well as suture disc.
I have given up screw completely. I only use suture disc and cortical fixations on both tibial and femoral side flex left adjustable loop. Dr. Abhishek, you were asking something.
Yeah, so I was asking when in that study, which considered a lot of multiple fixation options, was there any difference between the titanium screw and bioabsorbable screw in terms of tunnel widening, the problems of tunnel widening, or whether there was any literature regarding the absorption, how much does it absorb and what are the after effects of it?
Sir, there was a paper regarding comparing the tunnel widening using different methods of fixation, and it's showing that in female side, if you are using aperture fixation, then tunnel widening is less with aperture fixation. If we are using screw over there, and if the suspensory fixation is there, then chances of tunnel widening is more with suspensory fixation.
On the femoral side.
No, that is between the
Femoral side.
aperture fixation and the suspensory fixation. But in
On the femoral
aperture
side.
fixation,
Tibial side.
yeah, no. The question was with the aperture fixation, with the two types
But
of
he's saying that
materials.
it has been seen on your femoral side, he's not said on the tibial side, Dr. Anas. Any such this thing you found between bio and metal? That is what Dr. Nikhil is asking.
No. In bio and metal there was no difference. There was in this paper only it is showing. In bio and both fixation there was no difference in TB side.
Okay. Dr. Sandeep wants to ask a question. Sir, you can unmute yourself.
Our voice is audible.
Yeah.
Yes, audible.
One thing is the
Your volume is low. Dr. Sandeep,
Sir,
volume is
sir,
very
can
low.
you speak?
Yeah. Is it audible?
It's very,
Yes.
yeah.
The length of the screw, deciding the factor.
Sorry,
Sir,
sir.
we can't hear you. I think you type the question because we can't hear you.
Chat, mein, Dr. Sandeep, chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So length of the screw, here I have to put one point. It is not always possible to put a 35 screw. Like they were suggested one study that 35 is better than 28. What happens is the Indian tibia are very small. Many times we hardly get tunnel of 35, 40. And now
30.
Yeah. So if you put a 35 screw, it will project into the joint. So you be very careful regarding the length of the screw which you are suggesting.
Yeah, but the main principle is that reach up to mouth of the tunnel. Length is reach up to the mouth intraarticular.
One thing, Dr. Sandeep, here we need to consider is these screws are meant for fixation in the cortical bone. So, the moment your head goes inside the cortex, proximal cortex, I mean to say, you lose purchase. You might have noticed if you overturn the screw even by one, the moment it has gone inside the cortex, you suddenly lose purchase. So, screws are meant to purchase in the cortex. So, distal end is tapering. That is graft. But proximal end, almost always, suppose you have short graft, then you might lose purchase the moment it goes inside. So, depending upon the graft situation on the length tunnel, you have to decide your length should be basically. I personally feel if you are using a screw, then your head of the screw should be just plus the cortex. If you go moment you go inside, you will lose the purchase because they are meant to take purchase in the cortex. Dr. Anas, your take on that, on the length of the screw, Dr. Sandeep is asking.
Yes, sir. I will quote this regarding a paper. It was showing that go near to the articular surface, the fixation is better. More you go towards the articular surface, the fixation is better. So that comes to
That is what Dr. Sandeep was talking about. That the more you go towards inside, the fixation is better.
See, I think we are talking about two different things. When you see the fixation of the graft at the tunnel, at the mouth of tunnel, that is one thing. But what happens is if you push the screw all inside, then it is in the cancellous bone completely, and there is where you can get the loss of fixation. What Dr. Sanjay was talking about. That is why he is saying that you have to be correct. So the screw has to occupy the maximum length of the tunnel, and that is the most challenging part. Because if you have a shorter,
if you have a 30 tunnel, sorry, that is what I say. If you have a 30 tunnel, I have 28 screw will occupy the full tunnel, and you will have the same effect. A 35 tunnel will have a 35 screw.
Dr. Abhishek,
yeah.
do you recommend that we should put 1 or 2 ton of that screw particularly to get the good hold
Never.
of the tibial plateau?
Never. never put
then
the screw
it is, as you
intra-articular.
said, that it is in the cancellous bone, then don't you think that it might lead to the tunnel widening?
See, tunnel widening happens. Why do we have a tunnel widening? That is the first question. The tunnel widening happens because if you don't put the graft anatomical, when you are flexing and extending the knee, at that time, because of the forces that are occurring, the graft travels anterior or posterior or sometimes medial or lateral if you are just flushed, if it is just passing flush to the condyle, and that is where the tunnel widening happens. If you don't fix the graft close to the aperture, there will be a toggle of the graft inside as it happens with the suspensory fixation. So this is one aspect. If you put the screw too much inside, and if it is not, it is at least 5 to 10 mm from the cortex, then you don't get that good hold because the full screw is in the cancellous bone. So you have to have a screw which is getting you maximum of it covers the maximum tunnel length, which is a challenge.
Why
I will.
I'm asking is because
make
in
one
PC,
Yeah, please.
Also, we would like to make one more
for
point.
TBL
One,
fixation,
Yes.
I would
for
like to
TBL fixation, I insert the screw up to proximal cortex. The screw is in posterior medial corner of the tunnel. This has two purposes. The proximal bone has maximum strength and best quality of fixation over there. I see the screw I see the screw sticking up to the aperture, and that makes graft C shape because screw is in posterior lateral corner. Graft is fixed anteriorly and medially. We have one paper on this. We'll share that paper. I had published that with Dr. Bancha, and he always fixes the screw till proximal cortex. It serves both the purposes: best fixation
yeah.
and
So, sir,
making the graft shape.
Prashant,
in
you
that
mean till
study,
the
do you
aperture?
recommend that we should have one or two turns of that screw in the towards the joint, or no? Means we should be able to see the screw
Yes,
with
you
the
can
scope.
see the screw. Yes.
Okay.
Dr.
So
Abhishek, you are
everybody
saying
believes
something?
that we should see the screw, because I don't think so. But what happens is nowadays the screws are tapered, and if you put the screw inside and if you try to get back couple of more turns, then it is a problem because then everything, the whole complex gets loose. So do everybody else also try?
Um,
You should not
wha-
push it too much in, you should not withdraw it. When you
Yes.
see, you can feel the screw getting tighter when it is going inside. When it reaches the proximal cortex, it gets very tight. You should not push beyond that. When you get good purchase after losing some strength, then you should stop there
Okay.
and never withdraw from that position.
But Prashant, for this method, I think you should be very accurate with the length of the tunnel. The length of it should match perfectly. If the
I think we should have
The
comments
voice is
from
not
Rahman sir
audible.
on this.
So your voice is not audible, but don't measure the length of tunnel. I use 20 or 30 screw and I always put it till proximal cortex. Usually my tunnel length is 35 to 40 because I drill with more vertical angle. Angle is
Take down the tibial footprint completely, Prashant.
Yes, Sanjay?
You always take down the tibial footprint completely. Only then you can see the screw. If you have a remnant there, it is very difficult to see the guide wire also when you are putting the screw inside because the graft comes in front of you. Pardon?
I don't keep that remnant.
Okay, you basically you need to take down. Then you need to take down the remnant completely. Only then you can be able to see the screw if possible. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
becomes.
It's better to take on remnant because then we can create anatomical footprint. Otherwise, sometimes it is really difficult to see the footprint also.
Okay.
I think it's good time to create a poll in our AJC group about all the discussions of the TBI footprint, like what is the angle, what is the preferred angle, what is much screw go inside, what is the size of preferred screw plus one or same size, what is the drill. So I think 8 to 10 consensus have to be put in our poll, and we have to create a poll in our AJC group.
Yeah.
So it's a
The paper I had put in the group very early, like it was a 1992 paper which I said ki if you can read. So in that they mention, depending upon your femoral position, what Abhishek was saying about is windshield wiper effect. The more the graph moves, the winding will occur. So depending upon your femoral tunnel position, if it is non-isometric, that was my talk in the first talk. So you perform the pistoning test before putting the screw tibial end. So the moment your graft is fixed on the femoral end, you do few cycles and see how much graft is coming out of the tibial aperture from the distal end. If it is coming more than 1 or 2 mm, that means your graft is non-isometric and it will move more than allowed or more than required during flexion and extension. Like the length change will be more, and there will be problems with tunnel widening and all those things. So the moment
It is 30 years back, Sanjay. 92 is 30 years back.
that paper, that's what I'm saying. That it was a transtibial tunnel in those studies.
Yes.
That is completely different. But your tunnel, your movement of the graft completely depends on the femoral femoral footprint. If you come down, the graft will change more. That paper, I'll present. We will be showing our study.
I think
So there are papers.
yeah, what I feel is nowadays we are aiming more towards the anatomy, so we try to get to the center of the footprint rather than choosing the isometric point. That is what
Yeah.
I mean.
That's true.
But within the footprint, we have to choose the most isometric, because as I had shown in my last talk, the more anisometric you go, the more length change in graft occurs, and over a period of time that the graft gives way. Lending, if more than 4% of graft change occurs, there is permanent damage to collagen fibers, and there will be overall lending later on. So between flexion extension, if the graft changes more than say 4 to 5 mm, you have already crossed that limit and you will damage the graft.
But if the graft is thick, then there is not much distance left to choose, because larger diameter graft, it will cover full
No,
footprint.
you have to go. That is what we showed in the. So I'll be coming back to it again in my this thing. So if you have any questions, you can discuss. In the meantime, there was one question on tunnel thing that I'll ask to Dr. Teer. Dr. Chirag asked, does the tibial tunnel position has effect on rotational stability? Dr. Teer, your take on this? Tibial tunnel position has effect on rotational stability.
Yeah. So, as we all know that it is till this discussion, we were aware that it is the posterolateral bundle which is controlling the rotational stability and not the anteromedial bundle. But this study suggests that there is no posterolateral bundle only. So now I think there is a scope for the rotation. The effect of C-shaped tibial insertion site or the C-shaped ACL reconstruction flatter graft used, and what is the effect of such kind of ACL reconstruction on the rotational stability. But otherwise, conventionally speaking, yes. So the posterolateral, if more we go posterolaterally, more the rotational control. That's what has been taught.
I'll add to this. My presentation, I presented Dr. An. Dr. An from Korea had presented a paper where he had two groups of patients. One patient had 2 femoral tunnels and 2 tibial tunnels, and the other group had 2 femoral tunnels and 1 tibial tunnel. They didn't find any difference between the two in terms of stability. What they found in patients whom they had put the graft also in the posterolateral tunnel, 60% patient had ruptured the posterolateral tunnel or relook arthroscopy. That's what I had presented in last this thing. So posterolateral position of the tunnel, even in anatomical double bundle reconstruction, gives more stress to the graft, and as per them, it is inconsequential to the stability of the knee. It is what the direct and anteromedial fibers make up the main component of the graft. That is what they summarized in that talk.
I think most of the papers in literature do suggest that there is a very high rupture of the posterolateral bundle, and
Yes,
that is
yes,
why
yes.
except a few groups who are doing a double bundle reconstruction currently, most of them have changed over to the alternative methods of to control the rotational stability, like a LET
Exactly.
or whatever. Okay, we'll
Yes.
cover that
In
also.
high pivot groups, we have to do many people now do LET
Yeah,
directly.
because the rupture rate of PL bundle is very high in all the studies.
Rotational instability is mostly due to root tear or lateral structures.
No. The question was in relation to the tunnel position. Does the tunnel
Yes,
position
I know
tibial
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a comment that rotational
Yeah.
instability is less due to ACL, but more because of the root tears or other extra-articular
So it is
structures.
multifactorial. Basically, you have to
Yeah.
evaluate the other structures also. That is true. Yeah.
You have to always see the ramp that doctor like we should see the ramp areas. We directly go start scoping the knee and we don't see the ramp at all. So ramp areas, if you have in patient will have some amount of anterior translation left in after an ACL reconstruction.
So I wanted to ask Dr. Tirth.
It is always
Yeah.
good to examine all compartments of knee.
I wanted
Yes,
to ask
Dr.
Dr.
Abhishek.
Tirth that he presented one paper on C shape, one on double bundle. What is your take in cases of single bundle reconstructions? So the standard that we usually do on the tibial tunnels or the tibial footprint. How do you like to take that? Because there are multiple ways in which you can decide the tibial footprint.
Yeah. So, sir, actually, both the article is describing single bundle as well as double bundle.
Yeah.
So the first article saying that it has to be C-shaped, but since we are not having some kind of instrumentation, so I don't think we will be able to replicate any sooner because that requires a lot of investment. I mean, the research only can do. So in second article, if at all one wants to do anatomical single bundle reconstruction, then in that case, one has to be at the junction of Parsons law at the medial intercondylar line, and then from that corner, one has to know the diameter of the graft beforehand. So let's say the diameter is 10 centimeter. So from that corner, we have to calculate 5 mm, and at that point, we have to put the tip in and then use the drills. We will get the 10 mm of tunnel on the anteromedial aspect, which is the more anatomical position. And from in that, the paper is also showing that if we put the use the anteromedial aspect, then the chances of damaging the anterior horn of lateral meniscus is also very, very less.
I think in fresh ACL, most of time we find the ACL remnant while doing tibia or femoral tunnel. So, uh, Dr. Harsh, how many of us didn't find the remnant and doing all these tips and tricks of distance 0.5 and 1 centimeter and all these things during normal regular ACL reconstruction?
Pardon?
Yeah, I will repeat the question.
Yes.
Is that like how many of you doing ACL reconstruction and have not found the ACL remnant footprint of the tibial side? How many
I
percentage of your day-to-day cases?
have almost found something there on tibial side. Femoral side, many times it is not there, but tibial side there is
Yes,
something
I'm
always.
asking for tibial side. Yes, I'm asking for tibial side only.
I've
So,
never
like
found that.
those who have, yeah, that Leprats, many people, he strongly suggested to get the tibial footprint, whatsoever is many. So, whatsoever like presented by the excellent presentation, and many things will get to it. But I should follow the same which has Leprat has been taught to everyone among here, because it's very easy to demarcate rather than look for the any anatomical consideration or any other consideration. So I have found almost typical remnant in almost more than 95% of the case. So I always zinc over there, end up with that. There is significantly thick graft, more than 9. Then I try to go a bit posterior just to avoid the tibial bout. immediately like anti-cortex blowout. But most of the time I end up being 8, 8, 5 or 9 grams.
There is a question for Doctor. I think Dr. Teeth can take it. What's everybody's opinion is what experience about anterior tibial blowout and how can we avoid it? Dr. Teeth, your trajectory, you
Yeah,
have
so
any suggestion on trajectory of the tunnel to avoid anterior tibial blowout?
yeah, so I have no experience of anterior tunnel blowout, but what we can do is if we follow this anatomical landmark, I understand that it is in day-to-day practice we always find some remnant, always some form of tissue there. So what we can that paper conclusion itself was saying initially in few cases we might have to remove that tissue and do the reconstruction, but as the time goes by, as the skill improves, I think we should be in a position to, despite of some remnant, we should be able to hit at anteromedial aspect where it is actually required, and I think that is the best way to prevent the anterior tunnel blowout.
The one thing I would like to add here is कि when you place the tibial jig, so you should ensure that your jig surface is parallel to the tibial surface. So your arm will automatically come down. The moment your jig keeps on going up, if you don't this thing on that, then it will come more superficial and then the chances of blowout and even you are having short tunnel. So if you find your calculations, your tibial tunnel is going very small, then you increase the angulation and keep the jig more parallel or more down and you will get a longer tunnel. So to avoid this kind of tricky situation. There was a question from Dr. From just from Dr. Hardik Agrawal. Has anyone experienced intra-op? You come to know that tunnel position is grossly wrong. Can you specify which tunnel, femoral or tibial? Any immediate steps and or treatment? So I answered that during the talk that for the tibial, it's better to go 2 steps, small reamer and then bigger reamer, so that you can change the direction of your guide with an artery. Femoral, will have to, if it's grossly wrong, then it is easy because then you can easily put new tunnel in the femoral footprint. But if you are very close to the original, then you have to sort of accept it because it's very difficult to drill 2 tunnels and your graft will completely loosen out. Any suggestions?
But in that case, if the tunnel is grossly wrong, then I saw that somebody was using, like one of the talk, one was using core reamer, and whatever bone that is coming in, we can put it in the wrong tunnel.
But we have that available readily. We have only in those removal, implant removal sets on all those. The core reamers are there.
Yes, I would tell you that even if you remove that graft and put it inside, the graft or whatever tunnel you are filling, it has to be stabilized. That bone has to be incorporated. Now this bone, if it is not fixed properly, it can toggle and cause more problems. So any idea about it, like how to prevent that?
What?
So if you put a bone, if you're taking a core reamer or whatever, you get the bone. If you're drilled the tunnel.
It was in relation to Teeth said if your tunnel is grossly wrong. Suppose you have created a very anterior tunnel on the femur, and your new tunnel is there is a big bridge. Then I think you can go ahead with the graft and like you're not fixing on that tunnel. That is what he meant.
On the femur.
Fixation, then it on the femur or tibia basically. So tibia, I don't think it's very difficult to go grossly wrong. Femur side, yes. Many times in deep
Usually
section,
it will never happen that it is grossly wrong. It will be slightly wrong and then then it's a problem.
Then we
It's always better to mark the site of footprint and then drill.
that is what we suggested. Mark it between all and then go with the final drill, especially in the femoral, because in hyperflexion, once your drill starts going inside, everything, the field is lost. There is a lot of debris inside. So I always have another portal in which I keep an empty shaver. Ask the assistant to keep a thumb on that. The moment I start trimming, I ask him to keep on using the thumb so that water keeps on flowing inside. The fluid is clear. I see the measurement, how much drill I'm going, because you might also blow out the lateral cortex and you will have to end up a suture disc instead of a endo button if you blow out the lateral cortex on the femur or an extendo button situation. To avoid that, you should always go very slow and always have a habit, mark with an awl, come to the anteromedial portal, see where your this thing is, go back to the lateral portal and start drilling your this thing tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely important. I do the same.
Question to the everyone. While
Yes,
Yeah,
Dr.
your voice is very low.
Voice.
while fixing the graft on the tibial side, the bio screw or either a metal screw, where would everyone like to put that screw? Either posterior to graft, between the graft, anterior to graft, and any specification for the same?
It is posterolateral.
Posterior
It should be
lateral corner.
posterolateral.
Okay.
Hello? Graph fixation was taken by Anas. You have any view on this?
Yes, sir, it is posterolateral. Posterolateral.
So you put the screw
And
posterolateral.
also, yeah, the screw posterolateral. And
Okay.
I have read one more thing. While doing, if we are having thickness of graft of suppose 8 mm, one study was suggesting that you should go for 6 mm drilling, then go for subsequent dilatation, and then you put the graft of 8 mm. What is your take on that? It was saying that by putting this dilators, we compact the bone. Means that drill can cause bone weakening, and this dilator will compact the bone, so we will have better fixation and a smoother tunnel.
That is the ideal way to do it. If you
Yes.
have a impactor, then that is the best to hammer it down, and then you have with the screw and removes a lot of bone from the tunnel, especially on the tibial side, because on the femoral side mostly we have a cortical fixation. So I take cut to cut size of the tunnel. Many people take 0.5 mm higher. I always cut to cut size because shaft has to be tightly fitting. Another cause is I use cortical fixation both the ends. So the graft has to be tightly fitting in the tunnels. Otherwise, it will cause that windshield wiper effect and all those things. Your synovial fluid seep into the tunnels. Will did not lead to healing the proper this thing.
Yeah, I agree. So I perfectly agree that if you have a dilator, it is best because it compacts the bone. What happens with the drill usually is, even if there's slight bend and you have a 8 mm drill, if it toggles, it will drill more than what it is supposed to drill if it is not new.
Yes.
So then the tunnel is wider than what you actually are supposed to drill. So you have to take care of that. And even like Sanjay, like I also use most of the cases I use cortical fixation. So I want to have a very snug fit graft inside, because if there is even a little bit of white tunnel. So what happens with the white tunnel usually, this thing we actually ignore because there's a synovial fluid inside, and if there is already a white tunnel, the synovial fluid flows into the graft bone interface, and usually it builds up a hydrostatic pressure over there, and that sometimes creates problems, this tunnel widening. In addition to your, if the tunnel positions are right, then I'm talking about it. So you have to make sure that you drill it properly and you keep the graft snug fit into the tunnel.
I have a question.
Tibial fixation options. I have experience of some serious discharge at the tibial fixation and while using a bio screw. Do you any same experience about that?
I had, that's why I gave up bio screws, but no patient was ready to take titanium screws. So I completely gave up screws. That's why I have shifted to cortical fixation.
Sir, any peak screw for that?
Peak screws are difficult, especially in imported ones. Arthrex doesn't have a peak. I don't think Arthrex gives peak screw in India, and again that it's a plastic. So there are many papers in shoulder specifically that all biomaterials they deform when the testing is not done as body temperature. All these biomaterials they deform when they are inside the bone. That is the reason that shoulder also I prefer titanium in cuff. For Banca, we don't have any other option. We cannot use titanium. So basically, the deformation more as compared to titanium. So your fixation will get weak with time. So that is why I'm very. PEEK is a high grade plastic. So I'm very skeptical of using biomaterials especially in ligament and all those things, because PEEK actually is not really plastic. but it
See,
is
Peak has
difficult to
its own
get.
advantages and disadvantages.
Yes,
The advantages over titanium are still there because it is a very good. The modulus of elasticity of Peak is same as the modulus of elasticity of the bone,
bone.
and that is why you get a very good fixation with the Peak. The MRI artifacts that we get with the titanium screws are not there, so you get a good fixation as compared to the titanium screw. Now, what happens with the bio usually is bio screws are made up of different materials. You get PLA, PGA, PGLA, PLDLA, then you get biocomposite screws, and all these screws have their different advantages and disadvantages. So you should try to find out. Maybe we can take it sometime, like what happens with the dissolutions of different combinations, and that is why these bio screws have evolved over years. If you see, titanium screw is the same as it was been used 20, 30 years back. So yeah, you do get there have been cases of serious discharge from the bias to whether it is due to material or whether it is due to low grade infection. It is very difficult to determine, but I have certainly stopped using the normal bias screws. If at all I really go and use a bias screw, then it is a biocomposite screw.
Even these biocomposite ones are not completely
I know,
tricalcium
agreed,
phosphate. There is some
agreed,
component of
agreed.
I
so
So
just
you
want
cannot
to
now the
experience.
biocomposite screws have to be bicalcium. So it is a BCP screw.
tricalcium phosphate.
It is a combination of tricalcium phosphate and HA. So it is a higher ceramic. So you even
Ah,
biocomposite screws are different types, and different companies have their own
exactly.
combinations.
Yes, Dr. Sandeep, you are saying something.
BioScrew had a very bad experience. Actually, that was a practical mistake. I had ordered two companies of BioScrew. One was of Smith and Nephew, and the other was of a Striker. My sound is okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay.
So what happened was I got a screw of Smith and Nephew, which has a star screwdriver, and
Hmm.
the implement person gave me other screwdriver. Shape of the screw, the driver was different, and Striker. And what happened? It just fit at the mouth of the screw. It didn't
Yes.
go inside the screw. And when I started putting the screw broke. Half screw was inside, half screw was outside. So it was a tricky situation. I also didn't check the shape of the driver was a star shaped hexagonal. So that was a practical
So
glitch.
yeah,
That I tried to but the screw was very tight inside the tunnel. So I just cut the screw from the vortex and put a screw disc concave shape in a reverse manner so that convexity is outside. So it could hold at least some length.
that is
I've
the whole
broken
way out.
twice the screw. I've broken the
Wha-
screws twice, bio screws. Then I hammered them with the screwdriver itself inside the remaining part, and I did additional fixation on the TBR side
Yeah.
because it was not coming out. So
uh,
you don't have any other option.
See, I would make a point regarding these
Actually,
bio
I think
screws. These all bio screws are not same. When you are choosing the bio screw, no, when you decide, you see the screw and your screwdriver should go deep into the screw. Okay, so that the torque is equally distributed. These bio screws are soft screws, and the older generations had screwdrivers which used to fit at the head, and they cannot take the rotational torque. So you should have you think about in that way also when you are
There's the
choosing.
screwdriver right up till the almost up till the apex, and then from
Yes,
there
till
the
the apex.
yeah.
Yes. So the torque is equally
One
distributed.
one point is on the back of the bias screw there is a marker, thermal marker. So while during transport, if the color of the thermal marker changes, ideally that screw should not be used because it theoretically it changes its plastic deformation quality.
Okay,
Okay.
basically on the box itself.
Itself, I think Arthrex has it not screw anchors, bio anchors. They have a
Yeah.
marker. If the color changes, you should not use this anchor. People don't tell us actually. Company
That
people
is
don't tell us.
Dr. Stephen Mackard says he doesn't Dr. Stephen Mackard or Christian Gerber, I don't remember, because they say all these testings are done in lab, they are not according to body temperature, and the moment you put it inside the body, the complete this thing changes because and cadavers don't have that temperature regulation as normal people have. So that's why they are very skeptical of using these biomaterials, especially in plants like coffee.
Ironically, I learned this thing from my patient who showed me the packet that doctor, this color has changed.
Oh, It's an embarrassing situation then. Okay. Now,
We are
any other
now
questions?
we are
Otherwise,
learning from your patient.
Patient was a medico actually. He was a doctor.
Dr. Tirth, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, so I want to ask, are there any takers for screw fixation on femoral side? Are there any instances where somebody has used?
I had to use once because the guy blowed out the cortex, so I went to. I didn't have extendo button, so I didn't think of putting. I just put a femoral screw instead of a cortical fixation. That was my not very keen, but as a secondary kind of. Another instance, I used it in a quadriceps graft. ACL PCL, ACL PCL. I used a quadriceps graft for the ACL. For PCL, we use the semity gracilis. So with a quadriceps graft, it's very difficult to fix with button. If you don't have adjustable loop, I didn't have an adjustable loop. I had only fixed. So you have to the quadriceps graft and for adjustable loop to go. So I use the screw then. In that case, only 2 instances.
Okay. So any other
So
questions?
any other? Otherwise, we can fatapat go through our this presentations for how to present and finish it off today
Right.
in 5 minutes. Okay.
I think we will record the short video of both of you, Dr. Abhishek sir and you, and put
Okay.
in the group because we have only 10, 12 people here, and the presenters of the next talk and other talks are not here. So it's
Okay.
Okay.
in west of our record. So rather
Okay.
No problem. No problem. We'll do that.
video. We meet on Cisca, 2-3 people. I have 2-3. Then we record the video of the Cisca only, and then we put in the group.
Fine.
Okay.
Or we can record it wherever this thing. So next topic we decide on the group itself, right? For sure.
Yes. Yeah. We give priority to the presenters if they want to present their own topic. Otherwise,